So I was initially going to drop my first mock draft of the offseason today, but since the Texans made some coaching changes recently, I decided to make a video on that instead and delay my mock draft by a few days. The mock draft will be coming this Friday. So if you're waiting for the mock draft, it's coming. It'll be here this Friday, so be sure to subscribe and hit that little notification bell so you don't miss my first mock draft of the season. I'll tell you right now, I was playing with the whole little mock draft simulator, and as of right now, how this board fell or kept falling, if the Texans came away with the mock draft that I'm about to post this Friday, I would personally love it. Anyways, let's talk about these coaching changes. Let's start off with the move everybody was pissed about, and that is Sean Rhyan leaving to the Detroit Lions to be Matthew Stafford's quarterback coach. That's right, Sean Rhyan was our quarterback coach last year, and he goes to Detroit to coach a lesser quarterback in Stafford. Now, initially everybody was freaking out, or I'm pretty sure people are still freaking out, and personally, I see why he left. It's kind of obvious. In life, and I said this on my live stream before, you're always trying to progress. Like, you're never trying to stay the same. So I'm pretty sure Sean Rhyan knew that Tim Kelly was going to be announced as the OC for the Texans. So it was going to be Tim Kelly and not Sean Rhyan that was going to take over as the OC in Houston. So, Sean Rhyan went to Detroit, where he felt like he had an opportunity to progress as a coach in the NFL and maybe one day become a head coach. Now, I know people are freaking out about this move, but personally, I could honestly care less. I know some people are going to be shocked, like, what in the world? Well, let's just sit here and think. Okay, who was involved with Deshaun? Was it Sean Rhyan or was it Bill O'Brien? Like, who is more responsible for his growth? Now, most people will tell you Sean Rhyan because they don't like to give O'Brien credit for anything. And okay, that's fine. I don't know who's more responsible for the growth of Deshaun Watson, but I will say this. Pretty much everybody in the fan base believes it's Sean Rhyan. And you know what? That's fine. Let's go with Sean Rhyan. Let's say Sean Rhyan is the one responsible for Deshaun Watson's growth. Okay, at first I was pissed at this move, but then when I really sat back and thought about it, and I'm kind of actually happy Sean Rhyan's gone, low-key. Because yes, Deshaun did get better at not throwing interceptions. He was more accurate, but I also saw a Deshaun Watson that all season long, he held on to the ball too long. And at around week 13, I believe, the Browns started bringing pressure from the edges, corner blitzes and all that stuff. And Deshaun never figured that out. He never figured out how to beat it. The Colts did it the following week, he couldn't beat it. The Jets did it the following week, he barely beat it. And then the Colts did it again in the playoffs, he couldn't beat it. So throughout the whole season, Deshaun, yes, he got better, but there was also some areas where Deshaun just showed no improvement all season. He never got better at reading the blitzes. He never got better at getting rid of the football. He held on to the ball too long pretty much every single game. There was at least one or more occasions where he did that. So to me, this is a correct move because he kind of had to find the right coach who can correct these mistakes by Deshaun Watson and help him get to the next level. At first, initially, it does seem like a bad move letting him, go to Detroit. But if you really sit there and think about it, Deshaun needs to improve in some areas. And in those two areas, Deshaun showed no progression throughout the season. Like, he did not get better at getting rid of the ball or reading those outside blitzes. So who knows? Maybe Sean Ryan isn't as good as everybody thinks he is. I just think we need to help Deshaun progress, and I think this is the most important thing. Okay, now for the next move. This one was like a shocking move. This move, honestly, I thought it was funny at first. And I thought everybody else thought it was funny at first. But then I actually found out that people were actually pissed at this move. But I find it hard to be pissed at this move. I actually like this move. And that's the hiring of Brian Cushing as, I guess, an assistant strength and conditioning coach. And as a defensive assistant. I like this move because Brian Cushing, I mean, he's a good guy. He's well respected in the locker room. And one thing Brian Cushing always brought to the team was energy. Now, if you go back to that terrible wild card weekend game against the Colts, one thing the Texans lacked on both sides of the ball was energy. Maybe Brian Cushing can pump these guys up. Who knows? And I know everybody's going to be joking about the whole PED situation, but I mean, to me, those are just jokes. I mean, it's not like freaking Brian Cushing's going to go around, giving PEDs to everyone, slipping things in people's drinks. He's not going to be doing that. So, like, these people that are pissed about, this hiring, I just don't get it. I mean, what do you have to lose? Like, literally nothing. He's well respected by the coaches, by the players. Everybody loves him. He's a high energy person. He was a very smart player, knew everything about the defense, which brings me to my next point. And this is just my opinion, or my, I guess, take, you can say. But maybe, just maybe, Brian Cushing was brought in to take over for Romeo Crennel eventually. Kind of how they did to Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel came in, was a linebackers coach for 3 years, and then took over for Vrabel. Maybe that's what they're planning to do with Brian Cushing, because keep in mind, Brian Cushing was pretty much the play caller on defense for Romeo Crennel and Wade Phillips, two of the best defensive coordinators of all time. So Brian Cushing definitely knows pretty much the ins and outs of everything there is to know about good defenses. Because as a middle linebacker, or just a linebacker in general, you know what's going on all around you. You just don't know what you're supposed to be doing. You know what your safeties are doing. You know what your corners are doing. You know what your defensive linemen are doing. What your fellow linebackers are doing. Like, Brian Cushing is a smart player. Might have made some bad decisions with the PEDs, but it doesn't make him a dumb player. When it comes to football, he's smart, and, maybe, just maybe, he can pump up this team and eventually take over as a DC or, as a positional coach. And the next hiring, we got Tim Kelly, former tight ends coach, being promoted to OC. Now, I see things split kind of 50-50 in this one. Some people hate it. Some people actually like it. Personally, I'll say I actually kind of like it, because what I wanted, see, a lot of people want Bill O'Brien to give up the play calling. Bill O'Brien is not going to give up the play calling because it's simple. Picture it this way. If your job was in jeopardy, would you really put your job in the hands of another man? No. The answer is no. Bill O'Brien is not going to hand the play calling duties to another man in a season where he knows that it's make it or break it. If you perform bad, you're fired. If you perform well, you stay. That's the season Bill O'Brien's going into next season. So Bill O'Brien is not going to hand over the play calling duties to Tim Kelly. At least I don't see it happening. Plus, I do think Bill O'Brien does a great job calling plays. I know everybody's going to disagree with this, but just look at the game film. People are open. We just don't have the talent to perform well. No O-line, rookie tight ends, and a terrible tight end in Ryan Griffin. Hurt wide receivers, a young quarterback that struggles to read the blitz and holds onto the ball way too long. We're just not there yet. We need talent. We need players to grow, get better, and then you'll see how good of a play caller Bill O'Brien is. Now, Tim Kelly, I don't see him calling the plays again. Now, what I wanted, personally, I wanted someone that can overlook the offense while Bill O'Brien focuses on the team as a whole. Because my problem with Bill O'Brien is the slow starts, this lack of energy, and this undisciplined team we were fielding last year. I mean, seriously, the 0-3 start, we know that. The terrible start against the Colts, both those games, those last two games, Week 14 and the wild card game. Lack of energy. The Week 14 Colts game. The Jets game, that game lacked energy. The wild card Colts game. And this undisciplined team that we had. All these pre-snap penalties. Like, I'm pretty sure we led the league in pre-snap penalties. I know Davenport led all offensive linemen in penalties. And I'm pretty sure Clowney led all defensive linemen in penalties. So to me, that's on the head coach. That's because Bill O'Brien is too focused on just the offense as a whole and Deshaun as a whole, as opposed to focusing on the whole team. Because if you go back to 2014, 2015, and 2016, the Texans, they were a very disciplined team. They were very good on defense. And they hardly ever lacked energy aside from a few games. But this season, like, that seemed to be the trend. Lack of energy, undisciplined, slow starts. That was the trend of the season. And to me, that's 100% on O'Brien. And that is my problem with Bill O'Brien. My problem is not with Bill O'Brien's play calling. My problem is with Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator, getting in Bill O'Brien's, the head coach's way. With Bill O'Brien, the head coach, getting in Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator's way. If that makes sense. That is my problem with Bill O'Brien. He needed a guy to look over the offense while he focuses on being a head coach. And I'll just leave it as that. I think this hiring is a good hiring. It'll be good for the Texans to finally have, a guy overlooking the offense while Bill O'Brien focuses on the whole team during practice, during, the game. But I still see Bill O'Brien being a play caller, and that's totally fine with me because Sean McVay calls plays, but he has an OC. Andy Reid calls plays, but he has an OC. Frank Wright calls plays, but he has an OC. Gary Kubiak called plays, but he had an OC. Just because you have an OC doesn't mean the OC's going to call plays. That's not how it always works. Now, the next hiring, it's just a small hiring. It's Will Lawing. He's moving up to be the tight ends coach. Don't really think much of it. And the last thing, quarterbacks coach. I don't know who they're going to bring in, but I hope they bring in a veteran quarterbacks coach, a quarterbacks coach that knows what he's doing. I have heard rumors that TJ Yates is going to be the quarterbacks coach. Hopefully that isn't so. Even if it is, I wouldn't be too mad at it, but I would prefer personally to bring in an older person to really help out Deshaun Watson, a proven coach, someone that's been around a while. And my reason for that is because, look at it this way. Look at the Texans special teams. All these years, they have sucked. The Texans have tried all these coordinators, They even went with Larry Izzo, an experimental guy that they brought in, former special teams ace player that they brought in. And our special teams still sucked. It wasn't until the Texans brought in a proven special teams coordinator, one that has been around the league for ages, one that has, been good for ages. It wasn't until then that the Texans finally improved on special teams. Last season, the Texans have had one of the better special teams in the league after all these years of having terrible special teams. So, what does that tell me? It tells me that experience matters. So, the Texans should definitely go get a quarterbacks coach that has been there, done that has coached the best, and that knows what he's doing, and that that he knows what he's doing, if that makes sense. I personally don't have any candidates because I haven't really looked at that, but that's just me doing wishful thinking, I guess you can say. That's what I want. That's on my wish list for the new quarterbacks coach. Again, if it's TJ, I wouldn't mind because I like TJ. If we do hire TJ Yates as the quarterbacks coach, then we'll never ever lose to the Bengals ever again. But I will say this. We need a quarterbacks coach because last season the only people really in Deshaun's ear were Bill O'Brien and Sean Ryan. Next season, it should be Bill O'Brien, Tim Kelly, and, the quarterback's coach. So he'll have more people to help him out, more people to turn to, and, that will further improve Deshaun's game. That's just what I think personally. And, yeah, those are my thoughts on the Texans coaching staff changes. Be sure to comment down below your thoughts on the Texans coaching staff changes. And be sure to like and subscribe. And click that little notification bell too so you don't miss any other video. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.